The arrival. The Veyr had conquered dying worlds before. Worlds poisoned by war. Worlds frozen beneath collapsing suns. Worlds where weak species begged for survival and traded freedom for technology. The process was always the same. Arrive, study, control, rebuild. By the end, every planet looked identical. Perfect cities, perfect systems, perfect obedience. The Veyr called it order. Other species once called it surrender. Earth was supposed to be another easy world. From orbit, the planet looked primitive. Massive forests swallowed entire continents. Mountains ripped through the clouds like giant teeth. Storms spun endlessly across black oceans. Creatures moved everywhere across the surface in violent numbers. Yet no cities appeared. No satellites, no factories, no energy grids, no signs of machine intelligence. Only nature. The Veyr found that strange. Most intelligent species reshape their planets quickly. They build upward, expand outward, consume resources, replace wilderness with structure. Earth had done none of that. It remained wild. High Observer. Kael Veyr stood motionless inside the observation chamber as the planet rotated beneath him. White light from the holographic displays reflected across his silver-black frame, while data streams moved endlessly around the room.
Dominant species confirmed.
Kael asked. Lyra 9 answered immediately from the central analysis platform.
Bipedal apex, omnivore. Planet-wide presence. Estimated intelligence level, advanced adaptive.
Kael studied the rotating image of Earth.
No civilization.
None detected.
Commander Threx gave a low, mechanical scoff from across the chamber.
Then the species failed.
That conclusion matched every Veyr prediction. Without civilization, intelligent life eventually destroys itself. Harsh environments crush development. Predators limit expansion. Nature keeps species trapped in survival cycles forever. That was why the Veyr existed. To bring order where biology could not. Kael turned toward the massive forest hemisphere rotating beneath the ship.
Begin descent.
The command echoed across the vessel instantly. Outside, enormous landing craft detached from the main carrier and plunged toward Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. Clouds swallowed them whole. The descent shook violently. Earth's atmosphere fought everything entering it. Winds slammed against the ships hard enough to destabilize flight paths. Lightning exploded through dark storm systems surrounding the mountains below. Even the planet resisted smoothly controlled entry. Threx hated it immediately.
Unstable environment.
He muttered.
A live environment.
Lyra 9 corrected quietly. The landing ships burst beneath the storm clouds and entered the forest region below. The scale shocked even the Veyr. Trees towered hundreds of feet into the sky. Rivers cut glowing silver lines through endless green wilderness. Mist rolled between cliffs while distant animal calls echoed through the valley below. Everything moved. Nothing stood still. The ships landed beside a massive river basin just before nightfall. For several seconds, nobody exited. The Veyr simply watched the forest. Rain struck the metal hulls steadily. Wind bent entire trees sideways. Strange cries echoed somewhere far beyond the river. Earth did not sound peaceful. It sounded aware. The front hatch finally opened. Cold air rushed inside immediately, carrying the scent of wet soil, plants, river water, and something else. Predator musk. Commander Threx stepped onto Earth first, scanning aggressively. His heavy mechanical frame towered above the ground as weapon systems activated automatically across his arms. Behind him came Lyra, 9 and 6 exploration units. Kael exited last. The forest reacted instantly, not visibly, but subtly. The birds stopped calling, the insects quieted, even nearby animal movement disappeared from the scanners. The wilderness had noticed them. Lyra 9 crouched beside the riverbank, analyzing deep impressions pressed into the mud. Tracks, large ones, 5-toed, bipedal, but far too large for previous projections.
These belong to the dominant species,
She said. Threx stared at the tracks.
They travel without tools.
Apparently.
That is impossible.
Before Lyra 9 could answer, a loud crack echoed through the forest. Every Veyr unit turned instantly. Motion scanners activated. Nothing appeared. Another crack sounded behind them. Then, another farther uphill. Then, silence. Complete silence. Kael slowly looked toward the darkening tree line.
Where are the animals?
Nobody answered, because they had vanished. The entire forest suddenly felt empty. No birds, no insects, no movement, only rain. One exploration drone lifted into the air and scanned above the canopy. At first, the feed showed nothing except branches moving through the storm. Then, something crossed the camera. Fast. Too fast. The image distorted violently before the drone disappeared downward into the trees. Metal screamed. The signal died. Threx raised his weapon immediately.
Contact!
Movement exploded across the forest. Shadows sprinted between trees at impossible speed. One massive figure leaped from a cliffside onto a tree trunk nearly 30 feet below without making sound. Another shape moved through the river itself, barely disturbing the water. The Veyr locked targeting systems. No targets confirmed. The creatures moved too naturally through the environment. Their body temperatures blended with the storm. Their movements synchronized with shadows, rain, and terrain almost perfectly. Then one stepped into the open. The wild human stood at the river's edge, watching them. Tall, massively built. Dense dark hair covered its body in layers streaked with rainwater and mud. Thick arms hung low beside scar-covered shoulders, powerful enough to rival most predators on Earth. Its eyes reflected gold through the darkness. Not fear, observation. It looked directly at Kael Veyr, studying him, learning him. Kael scanned the creature rapidly. Muscle density exceeded projections. Bone structure reinforced. Heart rate controlled. Adrenal response minimal. The wild human was completely calm. Then another emerged behind it. Then another. More shapes appeared silently throughout the forest until the Veyr realized the horrifying truth. They had already been surrounded. Some wild humans crouched high within the trees, watching silently from above. Others stood motionless between rocks near the cliffs. One balanced effortlessly on a fallen tree extending over the river, unmoving despite the storm winds. No weapons, no armor. Yet every threat calculation inside the Veyr systems began rising rapidly. The wild humans communicated without speaking. One moved left, another shifted toward the river crossing. A third vanished entirely behind the Veyr formation. Perfect coordination. No visible commands, like the forest itself was controlling them. Threx aimed his weapon directly at the nearest wild human. The creature did not react. It simply stared at him, unblinking, fearless. Kael suddenly understood what the orbital scans had fail to see. Earth had civilization once. Not cities, not machines. Something older. A species so perfectly adapted to the planet that it never needed to build above nature, because it had already mastered living inside it. The wild human closest to the river slowly stepped forward. Rain poured down its body while thunder rolled through the mountains behind it. Then it released a deep, low sound into the darkness. Not quite a growl, not quite language, a warning. Instantly the forest answered. Shapes moved everywhere at once. Above them, behind them, beside them, the Veyr weapons locked onto dozens of targets simultaneously. Too many. For the first time in thousands of years, the Veyr realized something impossible. Earth was not waiting to be conquered. Earth already belonged to something else.